to our brother Imam Shadeed Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to kind of make this a little interactive. So, by show of hands, how many of you are going to participate? That's it? She raised her hand. She don't even know what she raised her hand. All right. I hate the whole didactic lecture thing where I just talk for 45 minutes and you just sitting there. Some of you sleep, some of you drifting off into another land. All right. So I'm going to ask for you guys to participate. Right. Okay. So I want to restrict my talk to about 4 points. Right. Number one. The religion of Islam is not a poor man's religion, right? The beauty of, I'm a convert to Islam, so the difference between someone who was a convert to Islam versus someone who was maybe migrated here from somewhere else and was raised in a Muslim environment is that they tend to, and I mean this is just natural human behaviors, that we often represent based upon our own reference points. So you'll find people representing Islam based upon the environments of the societies that they come from, even if they're able to deviate from that just a little bit because of, whatever educational experiences they've had. But primarily their reference points are always going to be from their culture and where they come from. Whereas someone who converts to Islam, our outlook on Islam is not necessarily from any particular reference point. It's always and that may be a problem as well because it's more theoretical than it is practical because our understanding of Islam was taken from books, right? So many of us who have never lived in an Islamic country before, we don't really have an ideal understanding of Islam. Everything is just theory, what we read in books, all right? So my references or my reference when I speak about Islam is always going to be from both of those, because I've lived almost a decade of my life in Saudi Arabia, so I've had some experience in a Muslim country to see how Islam is supposed to function as a society. And being a convert to Islam, having graduated from Islamic University, then I also come from a more theoretical perspective as well. So when you combine those two, hopefully we have a more balanced outlook of Islam. So when I start and I say that Islam is not a poor man's religion, I'm saying that to say that some people represent Islam like it's okay to be poor and it's okay not to have money. And we'll, quote references like, the first people to enter into paradise will be the poor, right? As if that is an encouragement for us to be poor. We'll cite other references from the Quran or the Sunnah, highlighting, the closeness of people who are poor and orphans and, grew up in unfavorable circumstances to be closer to God than other people, all right? Which that does have its place, but that does not mean, or that does not equal that being rich is actually something wrong with that. We make wealthy people, wealthy Muslims, feel like it's actually something wrong with being wealthy. You come to a masjid or a mosque with a nice car, nice pair of shoes, and someone will say to you what? You're too much into the dunya, right? You're too much into the dunya, brother. Stay away from the dunya, brother. We'll hear comments like this, and it makes you very uncomfortable because you say to yourself, well, is there anything wrong with having wealth and being wealthy and having businesses and money? Is there anything wrong with that? So when we look at Islam, there are certain aspects of worship that require money. Like what?
Sorry, what was the question?
There are certain aspects of our religion, certain aspects of worship that we have in Islam that you cannot practice without money. Hajj. Okay. The average Hajj ticket today is what? Huh? $8,000. Right. And this is a pillar from Islam. This is not like some supererogatory act of worship that if you don't do it, you're excused. Right. Performing Hajj requires money. All right, and that's a pillar of Islam, and that even to the point where Umar, he said that anyone who has money, right, has the money to make Hajj and then refuses to make Hajj, then he would be better off dying a Jew or a Christian, because it makes no sense to die as a Muslim because you have neglected a pillar from the pillars of Islam that makes your religion whole. So, I mean, that requires money. Allah mentions in the Quran, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. That Hajj is an obligation upon everyone to the house of Allah, whoever has the ability. The ability. And the scholars explain that the ability here is the physical ability, right? The physical ability and the financial means to do so. So much so that if you do not have the financial ability to make Hajj, you are excused, right? Which is why even some of the scholars won't, that the knowledge, they say that the knowledge of Hajj is not an obligation upon you until you actually have the money to make Hajj, because it would make no sense to study the aspects of Hajj when you actually don't even qualify for Hajj. Okay, so what else? Somebody else, right? Zakat, obviously, zakat. When the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'adh bin Jabal to Yemen, he said that to inform them that zakat is sadaqatun tukhadu min aghniyaihim wa turaddu ila fuqaraihim. That it is wealth that is taken from the wealthy, money that is taken from the wealthy, right? So that in itself is an indication or implies that there are Muslims that are wealthy, that have money. That zakat is a sadaqah, it is an obligatory charity that is taken from the wealth of the wealthy and given to the poor. Okay, so the fact that he mentioned the wealth of the wealthy is an indication that in Islam there are Muslims that have wealth, that have money. Okay, what else? Another act of worship that requires money. Of course, Umrah, you can add Umrah in there with Hajj. Okay, khalas. Another aspect of worship that requires money. How many of you are here are married? Okay. So, was that free? Mm-mm. Sisters, did you marry your husbands for free? Or was there a dowry involved in that, right? Right, there was a dowry that was involved. Allah says in the Quran, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدَقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلًا يعني واجبًا. To give the women their dowries as an obligation. So that means that there's no marriage without a dowry. So there is some money involved. It's an exchange, right? Fair exchange is no robbery. The woman is giving you her life in exchange for, right? Okay, so marriage requires, and the Prophet ﷺ, there was even some of his companions who he disqualified for marriage because they didn't have money. Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan, when Fatima bint Qais came to the Prophet ﷺ, she said, Muawiyah proposed to me, and another man by the name of Abu Jahl proposed to me. The Prophet ﷺ said, as for Muawiyah, فَصَائِلُكَ لَا مَالَ لَهُ. He said, as for Muawiyah, he's poor. He doesn't have any money. Don't marry him. Right? If you were to say that about a man today, he would be so offended. Right? Because we live in an era of political correctness. We have to say what is politically correct, right? And even in our marriages, we live in an era of emotional correctness. We have to say what is emotional correct, which is why many of our marriages don't go beneath the surface. It stays right there, right? So you can't even say that about someone today. If a sister comes and says, hey, Brother Imam, this brother wants to marry me, and we know his financial situation, and we say, no, don't marry him. He's poor. He would be, uber offended. And may even approach you for backbiting him or accuse you of backbiting him or slandering him, when in fact, that is your responsibility to make sure that the woman is financially secure when she goes into the marriage, right? So he disqualified him from marriage. He said, as for Muawiyah, he's poor, don't marry him. He said, as for Abu Jahl, then he beats his women, then don't marry him either, right? And that's another thing. If we were to say, oh, this brother, I know him, he, his last wife, he beat his last wife up, don't marry him, we'll be utterly offended, right? And we wouldn't even utter something because we say, well, that's not none of my business, right? Here's a woman getting ready to spend the rest of her life with this domestic abuser, but it's none of our business, right? We're not supposed to say anything about it, right? So even marriage requires money. Children requires money, right? The Prophet, Allah says in the Quran, وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُمْ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. That it is upon the father, the mawlud, the father of the child, to pay for his food and his clothing and to put a roof over his head, right? That is the responsibility of the father. Even if the parents separate, it is still his responsibility. Unfortunately, today when a man divorces a woman, it's like he divorces his children too, because he doesn't have to take care of them anymore either, right? Let your next husband take care of them, It's no longer my responsibility. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places that responsibility on the father. So even having children requires money. All right? Did I leave anything? Any stone unturned?
And the parents.
Huh?
The parents.
The parents.
Yeah, the parents. So it says our parents.
Oh, taking care of your parents. Yes, absolutely. Taking care of your parents requires money, right? All right. Also, like investments, what is known in Islam as sadaqah jariyah. You know, to invest in something that will continuously be a benefit for the Muslims, like building a masjid, or building a mustashfa, building a hospital, or building a clinic, or something that Muslims will continuously benefit from. And the Prophet ﷺ said that is actually one of the things that will remain behind after your death. That when you die, everything, you take with you to your grave, with the exception of three things. And one of those three was a sadaqah jariyah. It's an ongoing charity, right, that continues on after you. So, taking care of orphans, as mentioned in the Quran, taking care of orphans, So all of these things require money in Islam. So I'm just hoping that we make that point clear, that Islam is not a poor man's religion. There are actually aspects of worship in our religion, like every cell phone, right, the van is going off.
Well, he sells all the Adhan class. That's
That's
why.
Oh, okay.
So it's like all the Adhan class.
This will be like 5 minutes.
It's like almost
They have
double.
it synchronized.
Sorry, brother.
It's okay. Okay. So that's number one. Islam is. Are we clear about that? So we need to be cautious with the way that we represent Islam. We don't want to represent Islam as if it's cool to be poor and that's what we advocate, being poor. That's not what we advocate. All right. Number two, we are encouraged in Islam to seek Allah's provision. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for you, then that you are only going to get that if you go out and seek what Allah has decreed for you. People will tend to say, well, if Allah wanted me to be rich, then I would be rich, right? Okay. There's something that we have to understand about dua. Dua requires action. All right? It's dua and then action. There's the execution of the dua, which will only happen when you make the dua and then you go out in pursuit of the response to that dua. You can't say, oh, Allah bless me with children, right? Ya Wahhab, habli. Oh Allah Al-Wahhab, which is the appropriate name to call on him by when you want children. Oh Allah Al-Wahhab, give me children. And then you don't go get married, right? How do you expect those children? Oh, well, if Allah wanted me to have children, He would bless me with children, right? And the same thing applies with wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran about, in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. That when the salat is done, when the salat is finished, then go out into the earth and seek Allah's provision. Allah is encouraging us to go out and get what He decreed. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا يموتن أحدكم حتى يستكمل رزقه. That none of you will die until you have exhausted all of the provision that Allah decreed for you to have. Meaning, you will not die and there's 50 cents in this dunya that you were supposed to have that you didn't get. When you die, when the angel of death comes to snatch your soul, everything that Allah decreed for you to have, you will get.
Also, أعقل وتوكل.
Huh?
أعقل وتوكل.
Kif.
Like it's mean like you don't have to say like I want money and you're not working. And you
Uh-huh.
just go and say Dua, Allah give me money and you're not working. So
Yes.
أعقل first make your job and after tawakkal on Allah He's gonna
Yes,
give you.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you make your intention to go out, and then you put your trust in Allah, not the opposite, right? You don't say, well, I'm trusting in Allah, right? And it reminds me of a story of Umar radiallahu anhu, where one guy, he went to make Hajj, and he spent his last bit of money to make Hajj. And then when he got to Hajj, he was begging everybody for money. So Umar asked him, why are you begging everybody for money? He said, because I spent the last of what I had to come to make Hajj, and I put my tawakkul on Allah. He said, هذا ليس توكل, هذا tawakkul. That is not tawakkul, that is not trust in Allah, that is stupidity. Who takes their last, right, and goes and make Hajj, and then you're begging everybody for money, right? That's not trust in Allah. Trust in Allah is, making sure that, your camel is tied, and then putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are encouraged to seek provision We're not encouraged to just sit around and do anything. All right. There was a very beautiful story about two companions. One of them, he was one of the wealthiest men in Mecca. His name was Abdurrahman ibn Auf. He was actually also one of the 10 people that was promised paradise. And he was one of the wealthiest people in Mecca. And when they migrated to Medina, they left everything. Some of them, they didn't even have but the clothes that they had on their backs. An example of that is when the Prophet ﷺ encouraged the people to come out on the day of Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr, right? And he said even for the women to come out, and for the women who were on their menses to stay away from the musalla, but still come out and benefit. And the virgins that were in the home and things like this. So one of the women said to the Prophet ﷺ that even one of the women, she doesn't even have a jilbab to wear to come out. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Li talbisaha or tulbisaha ukhtuha min jilbabiha." Then let her sister clothe her from her overgarments, from her garments. Showing you that even some of the Sahabiyat, they didn't even have clothes. They didn't even have garments. So they left everything and migrated to Medina. Right? And when they migrated to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ, what he did was strategically, he made a special pact of brotherhood, pairing the Muhajirin with the Ansar. You and you, your brothers. You and you, brothers. You and you. Salman al-Farisi and Abu Darda, he said, you two are brothers. Fulan and Fulan, you two are brothers. And he paired Abdurrahman ibn Auf with one of the companions of Medina. His name was Sa'd ibn Rabi'a. Sa'd ibn Rabi'a was the wealthiest man in Medina. And if you look at strategically why he did that, why wouldn't he pair Abdurrahman with someone who was poor and come from maybe an ignoble tribe or, came from a lowly tribe? Why did he pair him, the wealthiest man, or who was the wealthiest man in Mecca, with the wealthiest man in Medina? Why? Why? What was the hikmah, the wisdom in that?
Because you want to understand other,
Huh?
You want to understand other.
Same
To
mindset.
understand one another.
They can understand one another. Great.
Have similar experiences.
It's very
Something
appealing.
between.
Okay.
When you know someone is of your caliber, it's very, that those walls are taken down. You don't feel like you're being taken advantage of. And,
Okay.
I think because one can help the other to develop a business, and
There
then
you
you
go.
can benefit the community.
There you go. One would benefit the other. If he had paired someone, Abdurrahman, who was rich and migrated to Medina and left everything, if he paired him with a poor man who didn't have much, right? Paired him with a man like Julaybib, for example, who had nothing, right? What would have happened?
Probably just end up
Care
paying
of
for
them.
everything.
Literally, he would drain all of his enthusiasm. And that's what happens when you put someone who is very enthusiastic and very outgoing, you pair them with someone who is not outgoing, not enthusiastic. Eventually, they start to have an impact on you, which was why when Abdullah bin Abbas wanted to go seek knowledge, he told one of his companions from the Ansar, come on, let's go seek knowledge from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. He said to him, do you think that people will actually need you while we have the companions of the Prophet around? So Abdullah bin Abbas said, okay, and he left him. And then he went on to become a scholar, right? Ibn Abbas. He went on to become a scholar. And then when the man saw him years later and all of the people were gathered around him asking him about matters of the deen, he walked over to Ibn Abbas and said, you are more anta kunta aqila minni. You are more intelligent, more smarter than I was, right? But he left him because when people have very low ambitions, they will literally drag you down. And it will kill your dreams. You have great dreams. I want to open up a business. I want to do this. And then you have this person saying, oh, no, that's haram. I want to stay away from riba. I want to stay away from this. And they leave you. They corner you till you actually start to think like them and be like them. And all of your aspirations and, enthusiasm is shot. And it's so pairing him with someone that was like him of the same caliber would help him to get that back, get what he had back. For example, Sa'd ibn Rabi'a, he said to him, I am the most wealthiest man in Medina. أنا أغنى الناس في المدينة وأنا أناسفك نصف مالي. I'm the wealthiest man in Medina and I'm giving you half of my wealth. Half of my wealth is yours, take it. And Abdurrahman said to him, Barakallahu laka fi malika wa ahlika dullani ala suq. He said, may Allah bless you and your family and your wealth. Just show me where the marketplace is. I can make my own money. Integrity, like we don't ask for handouts. Point me in the right direction, show me where the marketplace is, and I will go out and make my own money. I don't need you to give me anything. May Allah bless you. This is integrity, and not begging people and asking for handouts, and at least going out and trying to do something for yourself, right? And this is a lot of times you'll have, especially like in America, where we have guys that come home from prison, incarceration, and they come to the mosque, and they literally, believe that they have this privilege that, you owe me now. I'm home, I've arrived, and I want to get married so I don't commit zina, and I need a business. So one of you Muslims need to hook me up with a job, right? Like this privilege, like, you owe me. Never make an attempt to go out and do anything for themselves first. To at least come and say, hey, I'm, raking leaves, or I'm doing this in the neighborhood, and I'm volunteering here. And people respect that. When you actually take initiative to do things for yourself, people respect that. And, lo and behold, after a short period of time, Abdurrahman ibn Auf became the wealthiest man in Medina. La ilaha illallah. That zeal, that, aspiration, it never died because he paired him with someone that would stimulate that. So Islam, emphasizes going out and making money and, having wealth, right? Even the Prophet ﷺ used to take care of his family. Anyone knows how, if he had 9 wives, right? How did he take, and he was out giving dawah and spreading the message of Islam, how did he take care of his family? Was it just handouts people just gave to him, or did he actually work? Right? This is an aspect of his life that I really don't hear a lot of people talk about. But it just, in the back of your mind, you have to wonder, if he had 9 women that he was responsible for, and most of those women had children from previous marriages, right? And if we said the Muslim woman doesn't work, right, and I'm going to dispel that myth, but if we just said hypothetically the Muslim woman doesn't work, none of the Prophet's wives worked, he went out and how did he take care of his family? 9 women, children, each of them had a home. How did that happen?
Business.
Huh?
Business.
Business. He had a business.
Business of dates.
Business of dates. Okay. Anyone else? I'm not denying that. I'm just asking. No, don't look at your notes.
No, it's not notes.
I'm the only one allowed to look at
No,
your
it's
notes.
not notes.
How did he take care of his family?
He used to get the wealth from the Ghazawat.
Okay. The wealth from the spoils of war, what they call al-fay, right? The ghanima, right? The wealth from the spoils of war. So when they went to war, right, and maybe the non-Muslims, they fled the battlefield, whatever they left on the battlefield, the Prophet ﷺ would collect that. Whether it was horses, whether it was weapons, whether it was food, or even women, because sometimes they brought their women, to entertain them, right? In the Battle of Badr, Abu Sufyan said, no, we're going to go to the area of Badr, and we're going to fight Muhammad, and the Arabs are going to hear about us, and we're going to drink khamar, and our women are going to dance, right? But then when they fled the battlefield, they left their women on the battlefield, right? So this was considered al-ghanima, right? As Allah mentions in the Quran, وَمَا غَنِمْتُمْ, that whatever you got from the spoils of war, halal and tayyiba, is good and it's halal for you. So the Prophet ﷺ would take 1/5 of that, and that would be for Allah and His Messenger, and he would take a portion of that and feed his family. And then the other he would distribute amongst his companions as he saw fit. Okay, that was one way. Another way, he used to feed his family. Anywhere else? Did he have business? Yes, he had a business. What is known as al-fay. And al-fay is the money that was given to him by non-Muslims without any fighting involved. And this was due to peace treaties. Sometimes he would sign a peace treaty with a group, and that peace treaty would be based on money. They would pay him. And the peace treaty, for example, that he made with Bani Qurayza, before they broke the treaty, there were 3 tribes of Jews that used to live in Medina. One of them was Bani Qurayza. And that was actually the tribe that his wife Safiya was from. Safiya, she was a Jewish woman, and her father was the chief of Qurayza. Right? So before he went to war with Bani Qurayza, they broke the peace treaty once, twice, and then the 3rd time the Prophet ﷺ went to war with them. But they signed a peace treaty after that war, but the peace treaty for now was for money. And he did not sign the peace treaty except that there was money involved. And they would give him, instead of dinar and dirham, they would give him a certain amount of date palm trees. Date palm trees. And you would say to yourself, well, how does he benefit from date palm trees? What does he get out of that? How do you benefit from a date palm? How do you generate money off of that?
A perpetual harvest.
Perpetual harvest, because dates they're not seasonal. They produce all the time. That they produce fruit all the time by the permission of the Lord. Okay? So if you planted a date palm tree, when the dates fall off the tree and you put them in a basket, you take them out to the marketplace, you make money. You make money off of it. And then you can take those date palm trees and you can sell them to other people and you can make money as well, wholesaling. And that's exactly what he would do. He would take the date palm trees, he would sell them, and then give the money that he generated from that to his wives, and in some instances it would be enough to last them for a whole year. SubhanAllah. Enough money to last them for a whole year. So it shows us that even the Prophet ﷺ as a leader, as you have some imams or some people, religious people of knowledge, they sit around and they wait for the handouts of other people as opposed to going out and having some residual income coming in. Even if you're the imam of the mosque, and most imams don't get paid much, it's social service. And anyone who's involved in social service, you do it for the love of what you do, not for the love of money. And an imam is not excluded from it. But you'll have many imams, and they represent poverty. Imams, they represent poverty. When you look at their cars are raggedy, beat down. When you look at their dress, sometimes their shoes, you look at their children, and you're saying, I would never want to be an imam. Because it seems like they represent poverty. And am I lying? When you see an imam, do you see successful businessmen? Some imams, yes. Some imams represent that. But for me, for what I've seen from many imams throughout my life, I've never seen an imam represent that level of, finance and success and successful businessmen. I don't know. Have you guys, a different opinion, or you've seen both?
It depends on the community. Yeah. Definitely. It depends on the educational level.
Okay.
If they have charisma, they can make money.
If they have charisma. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see how if an imam doesn't, pay attention to these things, how he could be sending the wrong message to many of the young people who may be aspiring to be Hafiz Quran or to maybe later on become students of knowledge, but then they're looking at the imam and they're saying, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to end up like that, where my children, their clothes are raggedy, they only wear thobes and their sneakers are just run down, and he has 20 children stuffed in the back of a station wagon, and his wife and her clothes are just wrinkled, and her garment is wrinkled, her shoes look like she hasn't bought shoes in years, right? I've seen that, and it's scary to see that, and you say to yourself, I would never want to end up like that, I wouldn't want to end up like that. So as imams and people of knowledge, you have to be careful about how you represent and what you represent, right? We don't want to represent poverty. That's not what we're doing here. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ, and he also had sadaqah. He would receive sadaqah from people, of course, the sadaqah that was given to him, of course, he would just give it to his family. He didn't really care about those things, but he made sure that his family was taken care of. People would give him sadaqah, including his own wife. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ma nafa'atni sadaqatun mithlu sadaqatu Abi Bakr." He said that nobody's sadaqah, charity, has been more beneficial for me than the charity of Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, وَمَا هَلْ هَذِهِ النَّفَقَةِ إِلَّا لَكِ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Is my charity or my sadaqah or my wealth for anyone else except you, O Messenger of Allah? Who else is it for? For you. Because he bought into the mission of the Prophet ﷺ and he was sold on it. And that is the difference between commitment and interest. You might be interested in something for the time being, but when you are committed to